What's going on, guys? It is MadMan Plant. We are back here at Fire in the Mountain. Like I said, I'm going to have a lot of interviews today coming at you. We got Tripthe8th with me. What's going on, my dude?
Not a whole lot, man. How's it going with you today?
Doing amazing. I love being out at events. I love talking to people. I love really learning about people. So we're having a great day here. So your mom's the grower and you're the cooker.
Yeah, so I go ahead, I make it into oils. We just started doing the FICO, going all the way down, like butter, anything that you really want. And then I like to cook, everyone likes to do sweet edibles, but I like to do things like, honey barbecue chicken.
Yeah, okay.
Things that are like going to be nice and fitting that you can have as like your whole meal and then take a nap afterwards. When I do make sweets, like with the brownies, I'll put espresso in them or something to keep you up so you ain't going to take a nap off them,
There you go. They're all spiked with caffeine. They're going to love it.
Absolutely.
That's awesome. So tell me a little bit about cooking. Where does your passion and love for come from cannabis cooking?
Well, to be completely honest, man, I never was really a big fan of cooking at all.
Okay.
And at some point, living on my own, I got tired of eating crap because that's all I knew how to cook.
Yeah.
So, I started looking into it and I actually started getting good at it just from kind of necessity of not wanting to eat the same garbage every night. Like, let me learn how to make sauces. Let me learn how to make gravy. Let me learn how to. And then it all just kind of started transpiring in the last couple of years into where I tried to, mix it in with the weed because I'm always high anyway. Yep. So it just made sense to start smoking it.
Yeah.
Eating it.
And my thing too is, I love smoking, but the only thing that I worry about, not so much from the cannabis side, but just from the smoke, because smoke itself has carcinogen, is just the lungs. And, take a little like break. Now, cannabis in edible form is usually more of a body high for me versus like a head high.
Absolutely.
I like the more of like this, the smacked in the face by a train or a semi truck. You know what I'm talking about? Where it's like you're almost like numb and everything.
Absolutely.
So with edibles, how do you dose it, and what would be a dose that would give somebody that type of feeling?
So it's normally, that's the one thing that I'm trying to get to where I can actually accurately tell you exactly how much milligrams is in it.
Yep, yep.
I kind of have to take like a guess based on comparison to other things because I don't necessarily have that down to that perfect science like some of the people around at this event do. But again, it's all a learning experience. So ultimately, it all comes down to the quality. It's kind of concentrated. So if you have just enough butter to cover the weed, then you're going to get a more concentrated butter in the end than if you start with like, completely covered and then some. If you have double the butter and only half of the product, then you're going to get a lighter butter that would give you less of an effect per brownie or whatever you're making with it.
Now, are you using straight trim or are you actually using bud?
So you can do you can do it with anything. So it depends on the methods. You're gonna get more flavor out of your nugs and out of your finer pieces of cannabis than you are gonna be from the trim of everything.
Yeah.
That being said, the trim is always what I personally use as the first round testing of everything. Let me make sure that this FICO is gonna work out. Let me start with some trim and some nug mixed in, just so that I have that extra fluff. And also, you don't want to waste it either. You grew it, you're sitting there with all the trim, might as well go ahead, extract it, eat it, because otherwise, what are you going to do with it?
Yeah, true.
So keep it out of the trash, keep it used, and that's pretty much the dosing of it, from my knowledge.
Now, with that being said, what are you looking for? Like, do you go after certain strains for flavors? Like, if I'm gonna make a cherry pie, I'm gonna try to go find a cherry strain.
So not necessarily with like specific, trying to match like fruit flavors and whatnot. But there were certain terpenes. There's actually like you can find a wheel of them in the menu, and there's certain terpenes that bring out certain flavors.
Okay.
So theoretically, if you had a nug that you were looking for and it had that right terpenes in it, that's what's going to matter more than necessarily the strain, because you can have two different strains but they have that same terpene.
Gotcha.
But as long as you're getting the ones that are flavored, you can also get terpenes like extracted. and do the flavoring that way if you really want to get the most flavor from the weed into your food that you want. But a lot of people don't really like to taste it.
The actual flavor.
That's what I'm saying. They don't like to taste the weed. So that's one of the things that whenever you make it into like a butter and whatnot, if it's too strong, you're gonna taste it in whatever you cook with. But the way to get around that is by making it from a concentrate. So even if you're taking your trim, you're gonna go ahead and concentrate that. Whether you're gonna use like alcohol solvent or even if you just want to hit it with like a heat press and get some wax out of it and then cook that instead.
Gotcha.
Just so that you got less plant matter in it, because that's where most of the flavor comes from, is like the chlorophyll and at least the plant flavor, the weed itself flavor.
Yeah.
Versus the terpenes that you get fruity flavors in your cannabis.
Yeah, no, I'm kind of like different. I kind of like the weed, earthy, like flavor, plant taste in it because I just think I like the way it tastes.
Yeah.
It's so interesting that some people don't like that at all, and I've experienced that when I've made like my own brownies and stuff.
Mhm.
Some people like love that they can't taste it, and then some people like me, I prefer it because that's how I know it's actually in there. Because sometimes you wonder, it's like you said, how much grams? Because I'm not feeling much of anything.
Like I think it depends. So I think it tastes really good whenever you use more flavor than like trying to get rid of it. Whenever you make, like I said, the hot dishes that I like to make, as opposed to making sweets.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. It brings out something. It's almost like putting pesto. It's like an extra seasoning on whatever you're cooking, whether it's pastas, chicken, pretty much anything. You can put wheat on anything because you can infuse it into so many different things. The problem is always going to be heat. So whenever you think about like a fryer, I can't infuse anything before it goes into that fryer. So you have to fry the chicken and then dip it in like a barbecue sauce.
The sauce would carry the
right. The sauce is what's going to be infused.
Yep.
Not necessarily the chicken, because it would get too hot if you try. It
would just kill everything.
Yeah. It would all be cooked off.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of learning recipes that requires sauces, because you're not going to just be able to like have a steak. But what I can do is I can make a marinade for the steak and apply it late.
Yeah.
And just let it sit at a low temperature and monitor it to make sure that I'm not cooking any THC off for potency.
Now, what would you say your favorite thing to make is?
I mean, honestly, like all of it. It's all because it's all the same base process. There's many ways to do it, but I like having that like 3 pans on the stove. I might be making milk in this pan, butter in this pan, oil in this pan. And then, Jello is something that's quick and easy to make, because you think about like in about 3 hours, you got something. You spend about 40 minutes decarbing, throw it in some milk for about an hour, and then you make your Jello.
Yeah.
So it's quick, it's easy. I'd say that for my favorite.
Now, have you ever made anything that was like super complicated where it took like multiple steps?
Well, I mean, I guess it all kind of does, just because of the fact, like, whenever you're making a pasta dish, you cook your pasta first, and then you're putting it in the sauce and letting it cook. And then, you're infusing the sauce beforehand. At least I am, because I got to start with the plant matter. Yeah. Like, I don't have it already made up or anything, so I have to make anything that I want to infuse it with. Coconut oil is a big one that people like to use for the sweets. But again,
you like that better because that congeals. I've used coconut oil and it's good for a while, but then it.
So the thing I think with coconut oil specifically, is exactly like you said. It is a little bit harder to handle, but I always just throw it on a pan real quick and let it melt down before I add it into whatever I'm making anyway.
Do you do like MCT or any of the other oils as well, or is it just?
So I haven't made any of them yet. I do. I have the knowledge. I just haven't gotten to the point where I'm have enough, cannabis going on, because we don't get full plants here yet.
Yeah.
So
hate that. We need to change that, Virginia. We need to get a caregiver's license so we can give it away and get some more plant counts in here. Because because that's the thing too, is like people just don't understand, if you're not a grower, how much it takes to make things. It takes a lot more than it does to smoke. Like a smoke, you could do like, you know, a 0.2 of a gram and get, you know, a buzz, you know, to get an edible and to be able to make a full dish of brownies, you know, like when we were making our butter, and my butter used to be like green, we were doing like 7 ounces of straight weed in the butter.
Yeah.
And then that would be like, was it like, it's probably like maybe 8 or 9 sticks of butter, you know,
Okay.
so it's a big batch, right?
Yeah.
And I love that because it was like, it had a flavor, you know, it really kicked. But, you know, like I use the Levo machine a lot. And I use like, you know, the little gummy maker. I just don't get the punch that I did from making my own homemade brownies versus the gummies.
Well, you know, you gotta think about a brownie's this big and a gummy's that big.
Well, if you eat a handful of gummies, they can become.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So but that's the point, though, is you have to eat a handful of gummies to get the same effect as you would get off of one brownie.
Well, no, I totally get that. But what I'm saying is, I would.
And
I
it
would
still doesn't.
Yeah, you know what I mean.
Okay.
And that's why I was, you know, I've been struggling with the Levo. Is like, how do they gauge how much is in it? Because I just don't feel the heavy hitting from the Levo, like when I did it on the stove and I had to sit there for 2 hours and stir it and then, you know, oven it and, you know, then make the butter and then.
Well, so a lot of it comes down. So like you said, you put like a quarter in like 8 or 9 sticks, right?
Yeah.
So like, if I was gonna be making, you know, smaller edibles, I would almost say just the 4 sticks that come in a pack, and I would say anywhere from a quarter to a half ounce, even, as long as the butter can submerge it all.
Yep.
That's the kind of the if you have more butter than nug, that's when you start to, you know, in my opinion, you lose potency per like square inch, I guess you could call it.
Because it's diluting itself.
Right, you're diluting it.
You're spacing it out essentially.
Which is absolutely fine, but you're gonna notice less potent edibles off of that butter than you would, like I said, if you just made it into that more concentrated selection.
Now, have you ever tried like the tea checker or any of these things where it says it'll test your like potency?
No, I have not, but they are here, and that is something I plan on doing by the end of the day.
Oh, they are, the tea checkers here?
I thought, maybe not.
Maybe, I don't know. I haven't even walked around yet. I've been so glad that people have been sitting down with me. I was like, I haven't even talking to, oh, there's fish shit over there.
Yeah, I haven't seen that specifically yet, but I have walked around a couple times. You know, they have the teas, absolutely fantastic, right by the door.
Yeah. This is a great event, and it's a beautiful day out. Even though it's a little bit cold, it's not too bad.
No, it's not too bad, especially out back. They actually have like a tent to keep the wind out.
Yeah, the little smoke sash.
And everything can keep lit. You know, you're not going to have to worry about the wind putting it out because it's a windy day up on the mountain.
It is. We are definitely up on the mountains, and we're in Fisherville, Virginia. Well, we're at the time to kick off. How can we support you and how can we find you?
Tripthe8th on pretty much all platforms. I don't really post a whole lot yet, but you know, it's
coming soon.
Yeah, it's the age of the, you know, I've thought about it. I got some plans. I might put something out here soon, so definitely tap in. It just might be a little wait.
There you go. Well, he's coming your way. Look, there's 804 over there. What's going on, dude? Guys, stay tuned. We have more podcasts coming your way. Be right back.